All right, so it's just me this week. Rich has final exams he's focusing on, so I thought I'd share with you a brief Storytime video about what's going on in my life. So a couple of weeks ago, I was at work, and I got an email from my mom titled ER. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the situation, I am estranged to my parents. They've known for years I was gay, and under the guise of unconditional love, they said they loved me, but it was more the love the sinner, hate the sin type mentality. And they completely wrote Rich out of existence. I mean, they wouldn't even acknowledge his presence unless they referred to him as my buddy. But for more on that, you can check out my coming out video for more of the story. So anyway, a couple weeks ago, I was at work, and I got this email from my mom titled ER. And the inside of the message was very brief, and all it said basically was that my dad is in the hospital. My mom didn't know what was going on, and she could let me know, she could keep me posted if I want her to. Delightful example of gaslighting. You know, funny thing is, last year my dad was in the hospital in August, and I received a very similar email. So I wrote back right away. I put aside all of the passive aggressiveness of her message, and I said, of course I want you to let me know what's going on. Feel free to call or email. Last time he was in the hospital, I tried calling a couple of times, and she never called back. She emailed. 24 hours later, I finally got a response, and I had to have Rich interpret it for me because I didn't quite understand what she was saying in it. The short of it was that last year when my dad was in the hospital in August, my mom had drafted a couple of emails, apparently, and allegedly the hospital's Wi-Fi wouldn't let her send them. So I guess this email that I got, my mom was poking around in her outbox, and these messages were from last August were still there, and one of them sent. So my dad really wasn't in the ER. This was just one of the old messages she had drafted. The same exact one I had received last August. And then she did something she never does, and she apologized for this. And then she asked me how things are going in my life. I took this to be an olive branch, or at least I was hoping it was an olive branch. And so I wrote back a very thoughtful message. I put aside, my annoyance at the fact that she waited 24 hours to write back to me to let me know that my dad wasn't actually in the ER. And I wrote back a thoughtful message letting her know how everything is going in my life and also how everything is going in Rich's life as well. Because he's a huge part of my life. He's my husband. I'm not going to exclude him from any conversation with my mom. I had Rich read the message, and he didn't seem to think I should include him in the message. He said, don't cause any trouble. But the thing is, if I exclude him, that would basically invalidate the past 2.5 years. Where, I took a stand against my parents' homophobic views and sent the message. Several days go by, didn't hear anything. And then she finally wrote back, and as has always been the case, she 100% excluded any reference to Rich and instead focused on the parts that were about me. But she started out the message with the following. The good Lord has seen us through some pretty serious life-threatening problems in the last 2 years, which is true. Despite our faith being severely tested, we are still traditional Catholics and all that it entails. So what I get out of that message is that I have severely tested their faith in the past 2 years, which, great. I hope it makes them stop and think about their beliefs and, is it really worth writing your son out of your life because you refuse to accept his husband? And, to the part about them still being traditional conservative Catholics and all that it entails, that tells me they haven't changed one bit in the past 2.5 years, which I wasn't expecting them to. But thanks to my time in therapy, I was able to step back and once again realize that what happened with my parents wasn't my fault, and it's not my problem that they can't truly accept me for who I am, and that they can't welcome Rich into their lives. So because of that, I had thought about writing back to my mom, and I was like, no, that's not going to do any good. I had already seen her first messages as an olive branch, and nothing came of it. So basically, I left it at that. I'm done. So if you were in this situation, what would you have done? Would you have just left things where they are? Or would you have written back to my mom's comments about being traditional conservative Catholics and all that it entails? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm just curious to hear. Thanks as always for watching. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. hit that notification bell, and Rich and I both will be back again soon.